Grid. Guess what? Today I have a close personal friend, Wendy Papasan from Austin, Texas. She's going to sit down with us for 45 minutes or so and share a little bit about her wisdom and how she has created wealth through real estate investing. Wendy, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
It's my pleasure. So the way I always like to start these off is to really understand a little bit about the entrepreneur and your thinking when it comes to how you started on this real estate investing journey. When did it start, and what does it look like today? So let's go back in time.
Sure.
When did it start?
Yeah. Well, so my real estate investing journey just started with our first home. So when we were thinking about selling our first home and moving into our second home, someone suggested that we keep it as an investment property. And I think my husband and I were like, wait, what? What do you mean? And I can remember our first tenants that we had, they pulled up in their BMW and we knew how much they made, and they made more than us. And it was a life-changing light bulb moment for me, because I realized that even though we were a lot less wealthy than the people that were moving in, we had an asset that they didn't. And it was just a big light bulb moment for me. And so that's really where it began. And we've actually kept all of our houses that we've ever lived in. And
every single one? You've never sold any of them?
No.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The only house we ever bought that we sold was our very first flip. And I wish we'd kept it.
Yeah, Number one regret I hear from most investors is I wish I just kept more, but it sounds like you kept a lot along the way.
We kept most. Yeah, we kept everything that we could, except for that first flip. There was another, we owned a duplex with a partner, and the partner had to sell, and it was 2009, and we didn't have the money to basically buy him out. Or it was tough to refinance because it was 2009, because the lending had really locked down, and I was just beginning my real estate career. I hadn't been working in 5 years. So we didn't have the opportunity to do it. I mean, knowing what I know now, we probably could have easily gotten the money from a friend or something like that, but we just didn't know. So yeah.
When did you buy that first property?
So we bought that first property so we moved to Austin from New York City in 2000. Jay started working at Keller Williams in 2001, and he had a conversation with Mo where she shared with him that he should be tracking his net worth. And he came home that day and we figured out what our net worth was. We were both about 30, and our net worth was about $2,000, which was great. You know, it was in the positive, but it was also a big light bulb moment for us, because we realized, gosh, we've both been working for 10 plus years and we only have $2,000 to show for it. And it was a big mindset shift, because we'd moved from New York, where most people rent, where all of our friends were renters in New York. I don't think we knew a single person who owned in New York. And we had moved to Austin, and we were renting, and it was so inexpensive compared to New York. We literally said to ourselves, we're going to rent forever. It's so inexpensive here. And so then after that conversation, we realized that, hey, it's not about the income. It's really about your net worth. And so immediately we decided we wanted to buy our first house. So within a year of being in Austin, Texas, we bought that first house. And I love the story of this little house, because it was, we didn't know what we were doing. It was a little 1940s stucco, weird layout. We just liked it. We loved the neighborhood. It was kind of an up and coming neighborhood, and we put 3.5% down. So we spent I think it was about $175,000. So we spent about $7,000, most of which we borrowed to get that house. And now that house, 20 years later, has appreciated. We've had tenants in there for 17 years who've paid the debt down.
Oh, wow.
And it's worth about $925,000. Yeah. Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah. So we turned that $7,000 into, close to $800,000. It took 20 years, but
But
Yeah.
it sounds like, well, there's a couple things, right? We have natural appreciation that does occur, but it
Mhm.
almost sounds like you found a pocket or an area that was going to go through some kind of renaissance, right? A
Mhm.
resurgence,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is a strategy. At the time, you probably weren't thinking that, but
I
we're
mean,
like,
we were in a way because we had we were selective about the neighborhood. We at the time there wasn't a traffic issue in Austin, and a lot of our friends were buying much bigger houses further out, much bigger, nicer houses for the same price. And we really said, we kind of want to be close to downtown. We feel like that's where the value is, and
Mhm.
yeah, we just turned out to be right. I mean, at the time there was very little activity downtown. Now it's bustling with every company from Facebook to Apple. I mean, literally every tech company that you can imagine. And so we're 2 miles from, that house was about 2 miles from downtown.
Wow. Yeah, and I guess Facebook is now known as Meta, right? The new name, which
Yes,
is kind of
Meta.
crazy. And
Meta.
we'll have to do a whole podcast with that, because that is, it's crazy what's going to happen with, I think, real estate and NFTs and blockchain over the next 5 to 10 years. So
Yeah.
that'll be a different topic.
Yeah.
But okay, so you bought that house, and that was the first one. How long did you live in it before you bought the second one?
We lived in it for 3 years, and that is when I got pregnant with my first baby, and we decided that having a second bathroom was probably going to be good for our marriage. Um, and it's true, it helps a lot, or at least a bigger master. And so, yeah, we bought that second house, which is another amazing story. We bought that for 245. So it was a lateral move for us because we knew we wanted to keep the first property. It was definitely bigger and it had 2 bathrooms, pretty much the same neighborhood, but the price, it just wasn't a huge price jump.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a lesson for everyone. We moved a little bit further away from downtown and we got a little bit bigger house, but it was basically a lateral move. And the reason we did that is we didn't want to sell the house and take the equity out. So again, we put very little down. I think we ended up putting maybe 5 to 10% down this time. It was, and we looked for a while, and we looked for a house that had a discount. So it was an estate sale. It was in 2004 when the market wasn't hot in Austin, and we got it at a discount. It was multiple offers, which was very rare then. So even when I look back and I look at the numbers of what was selling around there, we got a good deal on it. And it wasn't sexy. The countertops were bright yellow. It was a 1970s ranch house. It needed a lot of work. And so that house, which we bought for 245, 10% down, we lived in that for another 8 years. And now that cash flow is about $2,500 a month, and it's worth about 1.2 million.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you said it wasn't hot in 2004 in Austin. So that's interesting, because in other parts of the US, like 2004 was on fire.
Well,
Right?
not really, not in this neighborhood. So this neighborhood was not didn't have a lot of young people living in it. It was mostly full of older people. I remember pushing my baby carriage around and just really not seeing any other families. And now that neighborhood, Barton Hills, which is where we also bought our third house, is probably the best neighborhood in Austin now, randomly. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
So we benefited. I mean, I'd like to say we were super smart, but there's for sure luck there,
Yeah. It's interesting. Sometimes it's just intuition, and you don't know how to kind of define intuition. Yeah. You're like, oh, yeah, I like this area. We did the exact same thing. We kind of bought laterally when it came to price points, except, and we bought in a neighborhood where we were by far the youngest. I was like, like we're the only ones here with kids. Isabella was like 2 years old.
Yeah.
But we made the mistake of selling it, right? We sold it a few years later and made, I don't know, $250,000, which was great. Like, but that house today, like properties today on that lot,
Yeah.
$1.8, $2 million. Right?
Dang.
So we had it was a little rambler on that house. So we, to get it to the asset that it is today, you'd have to tear it down and build
update
it up.
it. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I look back and say, I wish I'd kept that one. Right. That's the one that my wife is always like, I love that house.
Oh,
So.
I know. Well, what was nice about that house is when we bought our third house, and we bought multiple investment properties along the way here too. But when we bought our third house, we lived in it for several years. And I bought it because of the lot. And it was a little bit of a lipstick, I would call it lipstick on a pig kind of house. And we bought that one for $695, and we knew we wanted to remodel it. So we were really looking for we didn't really care about the house that much. It actually had foundation issues. Not bad, but for a while we lived with a big crack across our living room, and but we liked the lot, and there was a pool. So it was a really big lot in our neighborhood. And I just had the feeling like at some point, having a big lot in this neighborhood is going to be very valuable. So we waited to remodel until we could pay cash for it. So we took that house that we bought for $695. We dumped about $800,000 into it. We actually took it all the way down to the studs. We added 600 square feet. And, at the end of it, we ended up making about $300,000 on that in equity. And that house has appreciated as well. So
is that where you guys still live today?
That's where we live.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's our house now.
Okay. And so, well, let me step back real fast, right? It sounds like you saved $800,000 to do the remodel. Is that right?
That is correct.
Wow. It's a lot of money to save, right?
Yeah, it was a huge motivator for me in my real estate business. And so it was a really, really, it was the most profitable year I've ever had in my real estate business because I was really motivated,
What year was that?
2018.
Interesting. One of the most profitable years I had too was 2018. Right, 2018. Okay, so you saved money in order to do the remodel on this, and you got, obviously increased the equity value of that asset. Along the way, were you then buying other properties as well? And then what does the portfolio look like today?
Yeah, so we have 12 properties, including our house. And so what that looks like is it's really when I started investing. I started investing right when my kids were born because I quit my job in marketing and I was a stay-at-home mom. And, I just needed more to do. And Jay wrote The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And so I got the bug for investing. And that's actually why I started my real estate business, is because I wanted to save money on investment properties. So my heart has always been in investing. The real estate team has occupied a ridiculous amount of my time and energy for the past 12 years in a good way. I've learned a lot as a leader, but my heart is still really with investing. So our goal was to, because I was always dragging my two babies around with me, I was to find something that was within a couple of miles of our house. And so all of our properties at that time that we purchased were close. And I think the first one I bought was actually off Craigslist. A friend of mine was like, "Hey, check out this property on Craigslist."
Good old Craigslist.
I know. And I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't in real estate. It was a tiny house. It was 670 square feet. I think we bought it for $130,000. And one of the bedrooms didn't have a closet. I didn't know. I mean, what do I know? And so what's great about that property though, is it's very charming. I always loved it. And also in a highly appreciating area. And what we've decided to do now is we're actually adding on to that. So a lot of what we're doing with our investing now is because I'm just a big fan of like the hassle-free life. And so for me, since so many of our properties, the land is almost worth more than the houses, we're trying to find the highest and best use for all of our properties. So, for instance, like remodeling our own home, and then this little property that we bought off Craigslist, it was a rental for many years, and then I was really looking for like a triple net property, a cute little house that I could move my real estate team into. And so then actually we're driving by St. Elmo one day, and my husband said to me, he's like, Wendy, why don't you look at turning St. Elmo into a commercial property? So I hired an architect. I knew the lot was really big. We basically doubled it in size. So it's still pretty small. It's 1,500 square feet. And I'm in the process of remodeling because in the meantime, we've started a home repair and remodeling company. So I've got my team there.
Awesome.
Fixing.
We can talk a little bit about the remodeling piece and probably share some more stories after some time. We've been running ours now for 4 years. And so we'll banter back and forth on that at a later time.
Yes. Another day.
Another day. Okay. So you want to now take these properties and really find their highest and best use, right? So it's not about more, it's about squeezing more from what you currently have, right? And by the way, that would be a great book, The Hassle-Free Life, right? Great book, Hassle-Free Life, your rules on real estate investing or something like that. It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So tell me, we're talking about the hassle-free life, trying to squeeze more from what you already have, right? Is that just kind of like a core philosophy that you and Jay have?
I don't know if I'd call it a core philosophy, but yeah, I think it's a nice way. It's a nice way to do things. So after we finish the remodel on this one, we have several other properties that we can put accessory dwelling units on. It's really common in Central Austin. I don't know if it is where you are. We have several properties that kind of fit the bill there, which is either, to tear down the front unit and build 2 units and rent them both out, or to keep the front one and add one on the back, because you can add up to 1,100 square feet. And what you're doing then is, in Austin, you could still build for $250 a square foot, and you can't buy anything for $250 a square foot. So it's just a way to keep our cash flow up. And then, taxes here are horrible. We pay 2.3% in taxes. And when you've got a property that you bought for $245 and it's now worth $1.2 million and you're paying taxes on that really cuts into your cash flow. And so this is a way to kind of, and then at some point, honestly, we're going to turn around and sell these properties. It doesn't make sense to have, we literally, that house that's $1.2 million, we owe $29,000 on it. So it doesn't make sense to have $1 million in equity in it. Probably not, but it's easy.
Well, you could always get a line against that.
For sure. And we've done that. And we've done that before. Yeah, we've definitely done that before.
Or even owner finance those properties to some, somebody in your network and just get that annuity. Because if you did sell them, then the problem becomes like, where do you take that money?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. I have to pay capital gains on it.
Yeah.
And and my hope is that someday, now I've got 3 properties, all, the first 3 houses we ever owned. Now I've got a house for each of my kids in my neighborhood.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right. And so what is the next, 10 years now look like for you when it comes to the investing? What I heard you say earlier was, hey, I've built this agent team. The agent team is great. I've learned a lot in that process. And yet my heart's always been on the investment and wealth building side. And so are you going to spend more time on that side? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I'm really interested in kind of going down this development road. So getting our team together, getting, obviously construction's at a premium here in Austin. So it's a good business to be in right now. And just seeing how that shakes out. And, I feel like I am a big thinker, but often I think with the real estate journey, it's been sort of like one foot in front of the other. And And so to be really honest, like that's what I'm really interested in is that development piece. And I'm just going to see where it goes. About to hire a new person to run that company, and someone with an extensive background in construction management. And so that's kind of, I'm interested in that.
Well, it's interesting as a leader, part of our responsibility, part of our job is to create more opportunity for people within the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like a natural extension and an evolution of being able to say, okay, now we've built this foundational sales machine. And now what we're doing is we're going to build a wealth platform within the team, and the development arm allows you to be able to do that, right? And so it just seems, by the way, it's like we're kindred spirits with this, because that's my same journey.
I know,
right?
Rob. We're like the same person. Every time we talk, I'm just like, I just want to hug you.
I'm like, dude, that is exactly how I'm thinking about it too, right?
Yeah.
And especially because my little one's 19 now, so she's not little anymore, and I'm in this weird like empty nester thing, and feel like I'm still 25 and I got a long way to go. So
yeah. Well, and we're the same way, because my kids are 17 and 16. So I'm just like a couple years behind you as far as that goes. And yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see what you end up building there. So let's talk a little bit about challenges that you've had as you've been building this, right? Because it's not easy, right? Building a business is difficult. Buying investments many times, you can get in trouble. It sounds like you guys have had this good ride with these assets, but have you ever gotten in trouble on any investments that you've done, or have you ever gotten punched in the face, along the way?
Sure. Yes, we have. So the worst investment we ever made was in about 2006. I think it was when, the market was red hot. A lot of development was happening around Austin, and there was a Keller Williams agent, and this was before I was an agent. So there was a Keller Williams agent who was affiliated with a builder and got us to invest in buying a house in a new home community. And the idea is we gave our credit up, and then we got to like split the profits at the end. And honestly, it sounded like too good to be true. I said to Jay, I was like, this sounds too good to be true. And in fact, at one point I had such a bad feeling about it. And I called this agent who was pulling us into the deal. And I said, I just don't feel comfortable with this. I don't want to do it. And he got us on the phone. He got Jay and I and the builder on the phone, and basically kind of like hoodwinked us back into it. And so that was lesson number one, is you should always listen to your gut. You need to listen to your intuition. And I let somebody who I felt that I trusted and was more experienced kind of just hoodwink me. So what happened is the builder was not a good builder. The builder did not finish most of the homes in the community. The bank did not have oversight, and so a lot of our money that we took out as a loan got spent, or the builder took off with, and we ended up with a home that was not finished. So we needed about $150,000 to finish the home. And this was at a point where I hadn't been working for 2 years. We were living on one salary. We were buying investment properties. So we were very cash poor. And so all of a sudden we were saddled with $150,000 in debt. The house did get finished, but it sold at a loss. Well, actually, we kept it as a rental property for 2 years, but it was so far away. It was in Marble Falls. And so I would drive out there, and it was so stressful. And it just was, I had like a 1 and a 2-year-old at the time. I mean, the whole thing was incredibly stressful for me. And so then we ended up keeping it as a rental for 2 years. And ironically, had we done like we did everything else, we'd kept it, we would have done probably very well with it. But I didn't know what to do. So I actually hired a realtor. This is before I got my license. And we ended up selling it at and ended up with $150,000 in debt. So the bank who was facilitating the loan, they actually let us, because we opted not to sue them. Because I said to Jay, I said, I don't think anything good is going to come from suing this bank. I think if anything, we need this bank to move forward. And so we weren't a party to the lawsuit, and they allowed us to keep that debt as unsecured, just pretty not normal.
Not
and
normal.
at a pretty low interest rate. So it was a 5% interest rate. And so, yeah, we kept that debt for many, many years. And it was just a reminder of what had happened. Yeah.
Every time you make that payment,
yeah.
it's like, ouch,
yeah.
ouch.
But here's the good part. So ironically, we finally paid that debt off. And when the pandemic hit, of course, all of us were applying for PPP money. And I went to my bank, which was a major chain bank. And they didn't have any. They just said, you're going to have to get in the wait list. And I was like, you're kidding me. I have 14 accounts here. Do you know how much money I have in your bank? And so then I went back to that little bank outside of Austin, and they're the ones that ended up getting me my PPP because of our good relationship for so many years. Yeah. So it ended up kind of working out.
Another powerful lesson, right? Relationships matter. You didn't burn that bridge. Oh man, that's great. I got goosebumps thinking about that. That's crazy. Full circle.
Full circle.
Full circle.
Full circle. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a painful one.
That's a painful one. Yeah. $150,000 lesson plus all the stress. All the stress. Yeah.
I've got one of those. Right. And
Let's
I'm like,
it.
we're just going to keep it. No. This is about you now. We're going to keep that one, and we're just going to keep it forever. Right. Yeah. It's in a little town. Literally this town is not appreciated in like 40 years.
Wow.
And it's a triplex, and it's in a bad part of town. And I'm like, I think I'm just going to make it into a park. I literally think I'm just going to tear it down,
nice. Yeah.
and make it into a park, and just be like, this is our little park. Right.
I love that. Rob Chevez Memorial Park.
Yeah. I'll call it like Isabella's Park or something.
Yeah.
Like that,
I love that. Yeah.
It'd be cool.
It's great.
Okay. So that's a big lesson learned. So what I heard there was some speculation as opposed to real investing, right? You were speculating on probably, hey, once this gets completed, the value is going to be that much higher, but then the market changed and the builder was bad and blah, blah, blah. It's bad. Yeah. And I saw a lot of that happen during that time. Okay. So was that the only one? That's been the only one? Or did you?
So the first flip that we did, I would say it wasn't a failure, but it wasn't really a success. So when Jay was writing The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, he decided he should probably do a flip. So he and I and Dave Jenks and their research assistant at the time, Heather Russo, we all formed a partnership. And we got with an experienced investor agent in town, and we bought a house for $50,000 in Austin, which is like amazing to me to think that you could even do that back then. I know, it's so amazing. And we ended up doing a lot of sweat equity. And I think I did the majority of it because I wasn't working. So again, it was like dragging my kids out there. I mean, my poor children, they're probably like, no investing for us ever.
Yes.
And we ended up hiring a cut rate plumber to save money who did not, not a cut rate plumber, a cut rate foundation person, which everybody knows you're not supposed to do that. I can't believe this experienced investor agent let us do it. But I think we probably were looking at the numbers and we're like, no, we'll go with this guy.
Yeah. And
so then they ended up wrecking the plumbing, and there was no warranty. So, it just ended up kind of being a wash. We didn't make any money. That's the one I wish we'd kept, because later I went to show a house next door to it and it was like $300,000. So, that was another
That was
lesson.
that was a free education essentially.
That
Because
was free. Yeah. And actually I do think we made about $2,000. So, it between split between 4 people,
you
that's
you
yeah,
went to class and they paid you to go to class, and
100%.
that's
Yeah.
great. That's a great
100%.
return, right?
Yeah. 100%.
I
So
love that.
yeah, that
Well,
wasn't too bad.
what I what I'm hearing is just this progression, right? Like you buy them, you've been holding on to them for some time. You realize that, just looking back, I think investors in general, like if you've got a long enough time horizon, that is the key, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
always thinking, hey, I want to fix and flip, or I want to wholesale, or I want to do lease options. And I'm like, the game is really to hold on to these
It's a
assets.
get rich slow scheme.
That's it. That's it. And it's not like you're going to make cash flow overnight. Everybody has this vision. I know I had this vision of, I'm going to buy these rental properties and then I'm going to live off of the cash flow like year 2, year 3. And I'm like,
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to buy 10 properties in the next 3 years. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah. No, it doesn't happen because there's expenses too. And really, I think the key to building long-term wealth is to invest in assets like real estate, the stock market, and also to build cash flow businesses that allow you to buy more assets. I think it's almost a combination of the two, unless your freedom number is like $55,000 a year, which my freedom number is not that. It's not exorbitant, but I can't live on that. I don't want to live on it. So
yeah, I agree. You need, what I always say, you need that active income machine, right? Like a real estate team, or it could be a wholesaling team, or it could be some kind of fix and flip team, but that's an active income. And the purpose of that is to take that active income and flip it. I call it the income flip to the passive income side to hit whatever your freedom number is. And why don't you define for people like what a freedom number is? Like explain the concept of that so that our listeners understand.
Yeah, well, so I believe that wealthy is having enough passive income to fund your perfect life. And whatever your perfect life is your perfect life. It might be $55,000 for me. It's not that, because I want more and I have people in my life a lot of people in my life that I take care of. And so your freedom number is really the point where your passive investments are paying your lifestyle. Yeah. And so I am financially free. Jay and I are financially free. And it's a great feeling. Yeah.
You know how what's his name? Dave Ramsey does the debt-free scream. We need to have like a financially free scream, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is awesome. When did you guys cross that threshold? How long ago was that?
It's been a while. To be honest, Rob, I don't really know. I don't really know, but it's been a while, because we have, so about 57% of our net worth is in real estate. About 10%, 12% is in the stock market. And then a lot of the rest of it's in businesses. So, Jay has 2 businesses that he runs inside, with KW. I've got the real estate, the remodeling, and then I have my my side hustle, Her Best Life.
And by the way, I saw pictures of that, it looked phenomenal. How many people did you guys have there?
We sold 400 tickets.
What?
Yeah, we sold 400 tickets. Yeah, and that's becoming a reoccurring source of revenue. Yeah, so that'll be a passive income producer for me pretty soon. And that company's great, because that's a 7th level business for me. And for those of you that don't know what that means, is I work very little in the business. I am the chairman of the board, but I'm also a business owner. And so we've hired talented people to run that team, and we've 7th leveled that business. And that business, in the space of about 48 hours, went from a $250,000 a year revenue business to a $2 million a year revenue business. So it just goes to show hiring the right people is everything.
Yeah, it's everything, right? Wow, I'll have to pick your brain a little bit on that. That's definitely a who, not how. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And is the model for that subscriptions, coaching? I would imagine probably subscriptions and coaching for that model.
Membership.
Membership. Okay. Phenomenal. Yeah, that's a great business to be in, right?
Yeah.
And are you guys running a podcast for that right now?
Empire Building is kind of affiliated with it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And by the way, you guys just won, I think, Podcast of the Year.
We did, from Inman. Yeah, Inman Innovator of the Year. We were totally shocked. We had no idea that we were even nominated. So somebody texted us the night we won. It wasn't even on our radar to be watching or thinking about it. We didn't even know we were nominated. So it was a fun surprise.
Well, that's cool. That's when you're doing good things and you're planting good seeds and you're just, coming from contribution and helping people move forward. Good things happen. So,
yeah. Well, and I was like, who nominated us? And they were like, a lot of people did. Your fans nominated you. So we were like, what? Amazing.
yeah, congratulations on that.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, Wendy, any last tips for new investors just getting started, right? Whether it's tracking net worth, because I heard you say that. I think that's really powerful, and how you guys go about doing it. Maybe you have like a rhythm to it, or maybe you don't. I don't know if you've got a rhythm to it, but any advice that you would give anybody that's kind of launching or in the middle of this, trying to figure out how to accomplish their freedom number?
I would say the thing that held me back the longest until I really got inside and got my real estate license and started getting fed by Keller Williams is this idea of leverage. I come from a small Midwestern community in northern Minnesota where my whole family, my whole extended family were farmers. And it was like, get up at the crack of dawn, you work as hard as you can work. Until the cows come home, literally, and you do that your whole life, and then you die. And so when I started doing investing, that's really how I approached it, and that is how you need to approach it. There is a certain amount of sweat equity that you need to put in, but I would drag my kids, and we would do make ready cleanings for all of our properties. I would paint the inside of properties. I would, anything needed to be fixed. I would, a pilot light needed to be fixed on a water heater. I was landlady,
They're awesome.
And I did that for many years. And then once I got inside of Keller Williams and I started learning about leverage, I realized that a lot of that, it wasn't a waste of time, but eventually it was a waste of my time, because my time could have been better spent doing things, looking for other properties. And so I just didn't really understand, and I wasn't working. So, I didn't know the value of my time, honestly. But yeah, like cleaning those properties, I mean, I could have paid somebody else $80 to do that. And they probably would have done a way better job than I did, honestly, because I'm not really a detail person. So that would be my recommendation is understand your hourly wage, even when you don't have a job, think about the money that you made the previous year, figure out your hourly wage and get help for the things that you're not good at or aren't a good use of your time.
That's great advice. Yeah, we did the same thing. I think there might be just like a natural rhythm to that. Like you got to do it yourself, or at least you feel like you're earning it. But then eventually, I was just like, babe, I'm done. By the way, I'm done. And Kim loves painting. She loves painting. I'm like, shoot me. I don't want to paint. You can pay. If it's therapy for you, go ahead and paint.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we could pay somebody to do this. And she's like, but I want to do it. I'm like, okay. She's like, I just don't want to do the trimming section.
Trim. I know. That is the hard part. Yeah, that is definitely the hard part. Yeah. We just remodeled that first house of ours, and Jay and I did a ton of sweat equity in there. And we actually put in the hardwood floors or the laminate floors that were in there. And we just did a whole gut out remodel of that place, 20 years later. And we just pulled the floors out. And I was like, I was crying, because it was
nostalgia.
So sentimental, all that. I was like, we're pulling our sweat equity out. Yeah.
Well, Wendy, thanks for sharing some time today with me and the Grid family. I appreciate you. It's awesome. If people want to reach you, how would they do it? What's your Instagram handle? How do they reach you? Wendy's in Austin, Texas. She runs a really successful real estate team in Austin, Texas. So if you're thinking about investing in Austin, Texas, I would highly recommend you reach out to her and her team. How would people reach you, Wendy?
So my Instagram handle is Wendy Papasan. I have a pretty easy name to find. I got a weird last name, so that's pretty easy. And then I would also hope that anybody who's interested in building a big life and an even bigger business should listen to our podcast, Empire Building.
Yeah, and it's awesome. Empire building is amazing. I kept like 2 thumbs up to you guys, right?
Thanks,
But
Rob.
thanks so much. I'm off to go have a big meeting right now that I got to get ready for.
I
So
know. Yeah. Say hi to the big man for me.
I definitely will. You
Yeah.
take care.
Good to
Thanks
see
so
you.
much. Good seeing you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.